Grazie, sono molto emozionata di essere qui con voi. Mi interesso nel tempo presente e dei luoghi. I have an instinct for public space. I make site-specific work. I'm interested in place and present. I believe in the process of collaboration. I enjoy making work that is greater than the sum of its parts. I'm happy to be here today to present a vision for Rome. I'm honored that William Kentridge has joined the project and can be here in a special video that he has made for you today on his work in progress, Triumphs and Laments. There is no greater stage in the world for contemporary public art than Rome. Over the millennia, Rome has inspired the greatest art and architecture, all of it contemporary in its time. Can contemporary art today have the same stimulating role in public spaces and daily life in cities around the world? Why is Rome called the Eternal City? Is it because of the art and the Tiber? Rome has incredible public spaces. Romans have always had the capacity to dialogue with the past. The combination of the historic and living city is thrilling. The city and its history are an inspiration to the world. Here in Rome, history is evident. The city itself is evidence that time continues. Can the current of contemporary art continue to flow? Millions and millions of visitors come annually for the wealth of its art, architecture, spirituality, and history. People come, they take, and they go. Today, there are very few opportunities in the city to give back to Rome, to thank Rome for its inspiration. For this reason, I think a contemporary public arts program could be an exciting answer, where artists from around the world can create work in Rome, for Rome, on an urban scale. I envision a site, a place in the heart of the city where a lively, ever-changing current of contemporary art can happen that is accessible and free, where artists can interact, magnify, and challenge the present tense, where a site where artists can invest themselves in Rome-inspired work, temporary works that engage the city in a dialogue that is current. There are magnificent, intimate, and grand architectural spaces across the city. There are fountains in most historic piazzas, but there is no piazza for the Tiber. There is a section of the Tiber that is so curiously straight, like a New York City block, a perfect rectangle between Ponte Sisto and Ponte Mazzini. The ceiling is infinite, and the floor is a current. I was struck by this site, and upon further research, I understood it was coincidentally the same length and width as the Circus Maximus. We now call this site Piazza Tevere, a ready-made, open-air gallery and water theater. The idea is to establish a grand space for art and culture for the citizens of Rome and the world. The project began as a tribute with a parade of historic she-wolves. We worked together with Rome's sanitation department, AMA, and a group of fabulous volunteers. The technique was very simple, very ecological. We simply washed away the layers of pollution, working only with enormous stencils and high-pressure water. The figures were the result of a collaboration between myself and illustrator Francesca Fini, with the historic consultation of the primary she-wolf scholar Claudio Perisse Presice. The wolves were 12 meters high and spanned 3,000 years of art history. Together with a great team of volunteers and contributors, we have been working for 8 years to show the potential of this site. Here are some of the highlights. 1,000 floating fiaccole, the floating fires with Barnaby Evans and choreography by Linda Foster, harmonic overtone singing with Roberto Lanieri, chance encounters with Robert Hammond and Lisa Bilawa with musicians that just happen to appear. What's really fantastic about this site is that the public is a participant. They're within the situation. The experience of this place, where river and city meet, the imagination of artists is powerful. There's much potential. We're really honored to have an opportunity to work with great artists from South Africa, William Kentridge, on a large-scale work for our adopted site. The project will further define and shape this public space in the heart of Rome. So we've begun working on this idea of a procession that it's a two-phase project. Here's our team in Rome, grand volunteers. The idea is to do a two-phase project where there'll be more than 90 historical figures. William will tell you about it. These are some of the projection tests that we did, where the reflections are very much a part of the animated work. So there'll be two-layer. Eventually, first we'll do the figures, and then in another year we have 23 projectors planned with music on the site. So let's listen to what William has to say.
Shall we begin? We're here for him to explain his project for the banks of the River Tiber, a project that stretches for 500 meters from the Ponte Sisto in the heart of Rome. Your project, which you call Triumphs and Laments. Triumphs and Laments. Triumphs and Laments. Can you describe the project for us? The project is one of showing on this giant frieze the panoply of figures from the history of Rome, showing not just their triumphs, but also the imbrication of triumphs and laments. That for every shout of triumph that a conquering hero brings back with concubines, with booty, with slaves, there's the understory, the cost of history. I think he's trying to put onto the walls of the city that double sense of triumph and disaster that is always the essence of what happens in history. But my anxiety is that he doesn't have a clue of the history I make. Does he know anything about the great events that have happened? How is he going to describe and show the she-wolf, the founding image of the city of Rome, across the banks of the Tiber here? Do you have any way of, what is your historical analysis? What is your way of putting the different pieces of history together? I mean, where does Giordano Bruno come into this? Giordano Bruno, the philosopher, astronomer, mathematician, whose theories anticipated modern science, but who was put to death in 1600 as a heretic, as an impenitent and pernicious heretic. I don't think he has a clue who Giordano Bruno is. Bruno Giordano. Perhaps your fear in passing judgment on me is greater than mine in receiving it. Giordano Bruno, just before he was executed, burnt alive at Campo de' Fiori. the siege of Jerusalem by the Emperor Vespasian, or Trajan's column. If he understood Trajan and his history and his column, he could understand one could unwind that spiral of images on the column and spread it out as a huge frieze and use that as a principle of making the figures walking along. But the trouble is he doesn't do any reading. I make.
Thank you. So here are, my time is limited. Oh dear, the project, do I have a few more minutes? The project will take place in 2 phases. These are a few of the first drawings that William has done from Trajan's column. He has 98 more drawings to draw. This is a rendering of our vision of the space with tens of thousands of people contemplating the river's current and the frieze of historical figures of Rome's greatest triumphs and most tragic moments in time. Here is also this is a nighttime vision for the second phase of the project, where we'll have 23 projectors and perhaps musicians on barges. Philip Miller, who's the composer who's worked with William for many years, and he are discussing 2 processional bands composed of South African musicians and immigrant and dancing musicians. There'll be like processional dancing bands. And let's see, to give you an idea of the beauty of the potential projections, I'm going to show you just a very 15-second clip of the work, The Refusal of Time. This is... Thank you. And last of all, so the idea would be to make a Rome-specific procession, of course, but that just gives you a sense of it. And finally, I want to say that there's a huge amount of energy invested in this project. We're a force of optimists who believe that art should be part of public life in cities around the world. And let's have William come back for another second, and then I'll salute you.
What is the hope? That in the combination of pieces of paper, there'll be some recognition, something that will link the wall, the water, the ideas, even his books, but that something in the physical making, in the hands putting pieces together, will give an understanding and an image of history that is different and more than, and encompasses each story and its opposite.
What a magnificent stage. What a magnificent stage, Rome. Che teatro, Roma. Thank you.
Fantastic.